we are here talking about moon signs. This is one very small portion of our personal astrology. We are going to touch the tip of the iceberg today. We are not going to be able to get into everything there ever was to know about your moon sign, but I hope that this gives you the foundation from which you can build on. That's really my goal today. I'm going to give you resources at the end. I'm going to give you steps for next. I'm really big on action. So for my fire moon people or fire sun sign people, and you'll know who you are by the end of this, I love giving action steps. So if you are in a place where you want to write, it might be helpful for you to write down my moon sign is, and I'll put this in the chat, its element is, and its modality is. And I'm going to tell you what all of these mean as we go on, but this will help you kind of track where we're going. If you don't know your moon sign, that's okay. I'm going to show you how to get that. And if you don't get it right now, totally fine. You'll have the recording. You can go back to it. So I want to introduce myself for those of you who don't know, or those who maybe aren't super familiar with me. I'm Kelly Irene. I lived as an imposter in my own life for over a decade. I thought there was something really deeply wrong with me. And so I tried to live as other people. I did it at work. I did it in my marriage. I did it as a parent. I did it in my community. I looked at all of these other people and said, hey, she looks like a good mom. I'm going to show up like her. Hey, she looks like a good pastor's wife, because I was married to a pastor at the time. I'm going to try to do it like her. She looks really successful at work. I'm going to try to do it like her, rather than tapping into my own sense of who I am and how I'm meant to show up in the world. So that is a little bit of background. I think it's something that a lot of us feel like there's something wrong with us. I've been talking with folks this week who I've heard this in several forms. I shared on Instagram this morning. I was talking with somebody earlier, or I guess last week, and she said, I feel like it'd be easier to curl up in a box under the Santa Monica Bridge than it would be to show up as myself at work. And I think a lot of us feel that. And so that is why I'm bringing this to you today, because I want you to know there's nothing wrong with you. I want you to know that the needs that you have are valid and that they can be met, and that they're not indicative of something, a bigger problem with you. So before we jump into the moon signs, I want to give you kind of the context of this. This is what a birth chart looks like. If you've never seen your birth chart before, I would love to look at it with you. I'll tell you how at the end of the call. But you can always go to this website, astro-charts.com. And that's a really easy way to pull up your chart. When you first pull it up, it's going to look like this with all the crazy colorful lines. Don't worry about it. You're literally just looking for your moon sign. And that you're going to see both in that chart as the little moon symbol here. And then when you scroll down on the page, you'll see a list of all of the different planets, and you'll see your moon there. And this chart is just a map of where the planets were at the moment that you were born. So it's not, that's I feel like the best way to understand what a birth chart is. So when I look at people's birth charts, I always start with three things: their sun sign, their moon sign, and their rising sign. And the reason for that, our sun sign, most of us know what that is. So if you happen to know your sun sign, go ahead and put that in the chat. So if I come to you and I say, hey, what's your astrology sign? You're going to think of your sun sign. This is if, it only changes every 29 days. So a lot of people fall under the same sign. Kelly's Gemini. Go ahead and put it in if you know it. Maggie's Scorpio. These, a lot of times when we see horoscopes, when we're on Instagram or anywhere else online and they talk about our signs, it's usually referring to our sun sign. And it can be really helpful, but it can also feel really oversimplified. And that's because it's very, very general, but it's also helpful. Jen is Aries sun. Our sun sign really gets at how we're meant to shine in the world, how we're meant to show up in life, how we present to others. It gets at our personality. And so it can be helpful in that aspect, but it doesn't get at all the layers underneath our personality. Hi, Pat, Cancer sun. Our moon sign That changes every 2.5 days. So this is where was the moon the moment that you were born. This starts to give us more nuance in our chart. It helps us to understand our core needs, what our core values are, and really what we need to feel satisfied and successful in life. And that's what we're going to focus on today. So it also speaks to your internal world, your emotional state, and um, how you, I guess, experience your intuition is a good way to say that. And then our rising sign is the third thing that I like to look at when I'm reading someone's chart for the first time. And this gets at where the Eastern horizon was the moment that you were born. It changes every 2 hours. So this, throughout the day, we go through all 12 rising signs. The horizon passes through all 12 zodiac signs. And this one really helps us to see what our unique lens is that we process the world through. So when we go into a new situation, we're filtering information. What is our filter? That's what your rising sign gets at. And with this, we start to see more about our core values, more about what motivates us, and it also the questions we show up with. So we're not going to go into the rising sign today, but that's kind of the next step after you look at your sun and your moon is to look at your rising sign because that's really going to help you understand why you are driven the way that you are compared, especially when you think about in a team setting. This is so helpful for understanding why what drives me is different than what drives my teammates or my spouse or my kids, right? It can be helpful in all of those different relationships. So when we look at our moon sign, we're looking at the element of the sign. So fire, earth, water, and air. And I'm going to talk about those in a minute. We're looking at what's called the modality. I'll explain that. And then we look at the sign itself. So when we look at the elements, we're looking at if it's fire, this is going to be like Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. So if you've written it down and you already know what your moon sign is, if you're Aries, Leo, or Sagittarius, you're going to put fire as your element. This is usually very action oriented. So there's going to be a sense of if your moon is in one of these three signs, action is going to be a huge key to feeling satisfied with what you're doing. You are not going to feel satisfied if you are inputting data all day long. That's not how you are built. It's not that data doesn't light you up. It's not that there's no element of data in what you do. But if you're sitting at a computer inputting data all day long, doing the same thing day in and day out, and you have a fire sign or a fire moon sign, you're going to feel dissatisfied. And that can go into a lot of other elements or a lot of other situations as well. But just thinking about that, like kind of repetitive, ultra consistent or consistency is not for those with the fire sign. Earth, this is going to be Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn are all earth signs. So if you know that your moon sign and it's in one of those, then your element is earth. And this is very practical. It can be analytical, but it's really like getting things done. And it's going to be different from like among each of those, but there's going to be that sense of you need to be able to get things done. You want to fix things, especially, Virgo moon. That's really big on fixing things. Capricorn moon is really big on achieving goals. Taurus moon is going to be a little bit more grounded, maybe less action oriented, but still really needing that certain sense of like practicality. And then our water signs, that is Cancer. I always blank when I go through these. It feels like pressure. It is Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces are our water signs. So if that's your moon sign, your element is water, this really taps into our emotions. So people with strong water signs or with their moon in a water sign need that emotional connection a lot of times before anything else. So this can show up at work where, if we've got somebody who's got a lot of fire energy and they're like, go, 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 and they go to someone with that water energy and they're just like, hey, did you get this done? Did you do this? Did you do that? The water person is going to be like, wait, you didn't ask me how I'm doing. You didn't ask about what happened with my cat last week because I had to take them to the vet. You didn't ask about my kids. There's this need for that emotional connection to feel like you are safe in that relationship, but then also you need that emotional connection to feel satisfied with the different things that you're doing. And then the last one is air. So this is going to be Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. And air is associated with our thoughts. So these are folks who are going to be very mindful, sometimes overthinkers, not always, but they're going to be very philosophical, mindful. They need to be able to really think things through. And so if that's you, you want to put in there that your element is air. And we'll go into this I'm going to go through each of the signs, but I want to give you this little bit of background with how we get what we get in each sign. Okay. And then the other thing is your modality. So moving on to our modalities, we have three, and it's really helpful to think of this in the sense of seasons, right? When we start a new season, we have 3 months to it. So we start a season, then we get into the very middle of the season. That's where we are now. We're in the middle of summer. And then we're going to go into that transition period between seasons, between summer and fall in the Northern Hemisphere. So the cardinal modality is that beginning of the season. This is Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. This is going to, with these signs, there's going to be elements of needing to initiate things, to begin, to start new things. You're someone who, it doesn't always have to be super action oriented, but you also don't want to sit around and ruminate all the time on something. That's not going to feel as good to you. You're going to feel a lot more comfortable and at ease when you're able to start things. And that may be on your own, that may be with others. And then our fixed modalities, these are Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. This is again that middle of the season. So you think when we're transitioning from spring to summer or summer to fall, you get a little bit of back and forth, you get a little bit of flow. But when we are in Leo season in the Northern Hemisphere, it is hot. We don't have very many cool days, at least not where I live. I think those of you by the beach might get some more cool days, but those of us who are not by the beach or who are not, super far north, we are like in the middle of the heat of summer. And that really doesn't change. It doesn't flex much. And so if your moon is in one of these fixed signs, that flexibility might not come as naturally to you. You might have that in other areas of your chart. So it's not to say that you're never flexible, but when we're talking about what you need to feel satisfied and safe, you need that like rooted, grounded, I can trust this, I can count on this consistency to feel that sense of safety and satisfaction. And when we think about that in terms of our success, it's kind of the same thing. Somebody with a cardinal sign might be able to notice their success right away when they first started something, but somebody with a fixed moon sign is probably going to need to see that settle in more before they feel successful in it. And then finally, the mutable signs. These are the end of the cycle. We're transitioning from one to another. So we might start one way and another way. These people tend to be a lot more comfortable with the like already not yetness of life, right? There's so many things that we can look at in life where we say, yep, this is coming. I feel it. I know good things are coming, and we're not there yet. And so these are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. Your modality is mutable. So you're going to be a little bit more comfortable with that already not yet. You're not going to necessarily need to see your projects completed before you can start to feel the success of them. You're going to be able to feel that success a little earlier on. Okay. When we put this all together, I'm super visual. So I like to have a visual of like what this looks like. You all are going to get this when I send out the replay, but you can look here and see, okay, wherever your sign is it fire? Is it earth? Is it water? Is it air? You can see the elements, you can see the modalities. So this is something that you'll want to hang on to reference, because even as you dig into other areas of your chart, it's going to be really, really helpful for you to understand both the element and the modality of those things. So if you dig into your sun or your rising sign, you can come back to this and look at, is this fixed? Is this mutable? That will help you kind of interpret all of that. Okay, this is the fun part. This is where we get to dive into each of the signs. I love this. and I'm going to start with Aries. That's the very first sign of the zodiac. So when we look at the zodiac wheel, we always start right here. This is the Eastern horizon. So when you look at your birth chart, your rising sign, which can also be called the ascendant, is always going to be here on this line on your chart. So this is Aries, and then it goes around counterclockwise all the way through to Pisces. So when we look at the zodiac, the 12 different signs, when we look at the wheel, this is always how we're looking at it. So I'm going to start with Aries, and I'm going to go through all the rest of the signs. Aries is the first sign. Remember, it's a fire sign and it's a cardinal sign. Its element is fire and its modality is cardinal. It is, I like to think of Aries fire as like the spark that gets things going. That's to me, the easiest way to think of Aries. For you, if your moon is in Aries, you're going to feel most satisfied and successful when you take action. A lot of entrepreneurs have their sun, moon, and or rising sign in Aries because they love starting new things. This also means you might not always finish new things. So if it's something that needs to be brought to completion, either you're going to have to figure out how to bring in that energy from other elements in your chart, or you're going to need people who can help you to do that. So don't be afraid to embrace that new beginningness, but also make sure that you're aware that that spark that you get at the beginning may not always carry through to the end. For those of you with those strong Aries placements, if that resonates with you, will you just say yes or no in the chat? I want to make sure that we're all kind of tracking together. And then if your moon is in Taurus, this is an earth sign and it's fixed. So remember, earth is practical and the fixed modality doesn't like change a lot of times. So folks with their moon in Taurus tend to be very rooted, very grounded. This is, when I think of Taurus earth, it's the grass that cows like to graze on, right? The symbol for Taurus is a bull. So that grass that the bull is grazing on, that is Taurus earth. It's not this like wild, overgrown anything. It tends to be a little more manicured, a little more trimmed down. Folks with their moon in Taurus tend to, one, love being in nature. They love cozy, comfy things. I have a daughter with her moon in Taurus, and I share this all the time because it's such a good example. When she was little, we were watching a movie at my sister's house, and she got this big like pool floaty, an inner tube, and she put it on the couch and she put blankets and pillows on it, and then she just like sprawled out on it and then put a blanket on herself, and she was so cozy and it was so luxurious. And that to me is such a great image of this Taurus moon, of needing that coziness no matter what you're doing. And so for you, that's going to play into your self-care as well. Don't see that need for coziness as something wrong. That's just part of how you take care of you. Your moon in Gemini, with all of these, once I get to your sign, if it resonates or if it doesn't, let me know, because I'm always looking at, does this resonate with you all? Jen's saying yes, it resonates for her. Her moon's in Taurus. For those with their moon in Gemini, this is an air sign, so that gets at our thoughts, and then it's mutable. It's that change from one to another. So you need room to be able to pursue really thoughtful things. Gemini's symbol is the twins. So it's this both and. It can be very playful, but it also wants to know both sides of the story. So for someone with their moon in Gemini specifically, you're not going to feel secure in your relationships unless you can be comfortable being that playing devil's advocate with somebody. That can be at work, that can be personal, whatever it is. You need that ability to go, yeah, but what about this? Even if you don't believe it, you want to explore that, right? That's part of that Gemini nature. And so you need to give yourself lots and lots of room to do that, and make sure that you're with people who embrace that. Not all of us are comfortable with it. So it might help sometimes to be like, hey, I'm just really wanting to play this out with somebody. Are you open to that? That way they know it's not like you're not attacking them by doing this. That can be really helpful. And then for those with their moon in Cancer, this is a water sign and it's a cardinal sign. So we're back to that beginning nature. This is Cancer's symbol is the crab. Oh, Kelly's saying that resonates too, too much so on the comfortable in the already not yet. Yeah, that is my moon is in Capricorn. I am not comfortable with the already not yet. I want it now. So and Capricorn is a very fixed. No, Capricorn's a cardinal sign, I think. We'll go back to that in a minute. Your moon in Cancer, water, and it's that cardinal beginning sign. So the symbol for Cancer is the crab. And I always say when I am talking about Cancer, hard shell, soft interior. That is the crab, right? You have this sense of boundaries, but you also have this really beautiful, squishy, vulnerable inside that it's a gift to the world, but it can also feel really overwhelming because it's very intuitive. It's very in touch emotionally. Just like when you're on the beach and the waves are coming and they're going back out, that flow or that type of flow, that is a very Cancer energy. Not everybody's comfortable with emotions. And so it can feel really uncomfortable sometimes to have this emotional energy when you're in a setting with a lot of earth energy or fire energy that sometimes doesn't always play well with water. And so it's really important for you to understand that need that you have to be in touch with your emotions, to experience your emotions, to experience and trust your intuition, that need is valid and it's a superpower because those with their moon in Cancer can be so nurturing, not only for themselves, but for others as well. But if you don't nurture yourself first, you're not going to nurture others as well as you could. So I always tell my people who have their moon in Cancer, be sure that you're giving yourself that grace and that nurturance that you need. And then from there, when it's safe to do so, bring that nurture to others. A lot of people tend toward one or the other, people who have their moon in Cancer. But I think it's really important to know that it's got to be a both and just like, when you get on the airplane and they're going through all of the safety procedures and they say, put on your own mask before you try to help somebody else. That's really a message for our folks with Cancer or any water energy. Put on nurture yourself, take care of your own emotions because we live in a world that wants those emotions to be numbed. And you are giving us all a gift when you can tap into that and when you can teach the rest of us to do that. Okay, that's my Cancer soapbox. Our moon in Leo people. This is another fire sign, but this is different from the Aries fire. So this is that bonfire that others gather around. It's a lot of times when people talk about Leo in astrology, it can be this kind of like self-centered, I need to be the center of attention. I need the spotlight on me kind of energy. And that is not my experience with most people who have strong Leo energy. It's very much more a gather around. Yeah, the bonfire may be at the center, but what is it doing? It's emanating warmth toward others. It's inviting others in. It's creating this gorgeous, beautiful place where we can all share in just the beauty of being around the fire, of enjoying that moment, of the pleasure of the moment. That is the Leo energy that I want you to embrace if your moon is in Leo. This is a fixed sign, so it tends to be less comfortable with change. But that's not always the case, right? Fire can really easily change or shapeshift from one form to another. It can be a small contained bonfire, and then it can be a forest fire within minutes. And so if that's you and you've got your moon or another sign in Leo, pay attention to that fire nature within you and pay attention when you feel it shifting from that like warm, cozy campfire into something that could potentially be dangerous to those around you. And I'd say that's the case with any of the fire energies, but especially with Leo. Okay, your moon in Virgo. This is another earth sign. It's mutable. When I think of Virgo, I always have this image of a farm field that's got like these gorgeous rows of green, very fertile, very nurtured plants. And that's very Virgo energy, right? It's fertile. It Virgo never settles on good enough. Virgo is always looking for perfection. Virgo looks at the world around it and goes, how can I fix it? What's broken that I can fix? And that's a gift. It can also be a little bit of a burden for those with their moon in Virgo because you want to fix things and you don't always have the control and the ability to fix things. So, really be aware of that if that's your moon sign, that you can easily feel dissatisfied or unsuccessful in your life, when the reality is, if you stopped and looked in the moment and said, okay, today I have fixed this, and this. Yeah, the fourth thing isn't done, but I'm going to celebrate these other three. Give yourself the time to celebrate. Give yourself that time to honor the things that you have done well versus that focus on what still needs to be done. Because there's always things that are going to need to be done. Um, our moon in Libra, folks, that's another air sign. So again, our thoughts, it's very philosophical, it's cardinal. So we're going from one, or that's the beginning of the season. And for the Northern Hemisphere, this is the beginning of fall. The true kind of beginning of fall happens in Libra. Um, did I get this wrong? No, I got it right. Okay, I was just looking at these. Sorry, guys. Libra's symbol is the scales. It's that Lady Justice balancer. And so Libra is bringing into the world harmony, especially where there's chaos. It's bringing things together in harmony. It's bringing balance, integration, beauty. For you, there's a couple of things if your moon is in Libra. One, let yourself find beauty and harmony and let yourself create beauty and harmony because you have a superpower to do this. You have the ability to take on conflict management in a way that a lot of other people don't. You have an ability to see two things that might be opposing and bring them together where they're both honored. You have a way to take things that others might see as black and white, but you're filling in the color of that. That's what people with their moon or other strong placements in Libra are able to do. A lot of times they're peacekeepers. This can go to the far side of people pleaser. So if your moon is in Libra, make sure that you're not getting your needs met by pleasing others, but by truly trusting yourself and your own abilities to bring that balance. And know that balance isn't always exactly this, right? Like balance a lot of times is integration. Sometimes we need more of one and less of another thing. So allow that to be a form of balance or integration. And then our moon in Scorpio. So this is back to our water signs. I love moon in Scorpio people because this is like the depths of the ocean water. This is not surface level. So people with strong Scorpio placements don't do surface conversations well. Pat's saying that, or Patricia's saying that really resonates with her. Um, the Scorpio water is, I think of volcanoes forming or volcanoes, islands forming. They form because a volcano has come up from under the water and has hit the surface, and that has created an island in some cases. That is the energy of Scorpio. You are going to feel most comfortable in relationships when people take off their mask, when they are raw and real and vulnerable with you. You probably have just like an innate ability to cut through the BS and to see when somebody is lying to you. Yeah, Anna says, absolutely. Hi, what is your deepest fear? That is very Scorpio. I work with somebody who is a therapist, and does she works with couples on intimacy, and she does sex therapy, and she's got her sun and moon in Scorpio. So she's like, hey, all those things that other people keep hidden, let's uncover that. Let's shine the light on it and let's talk about it. That is very Scorpio energy. It tends to be very investigative. So they're not going to settle with the first answer that they're given because they know there's always something deeper. So let yourself do that and make sure that, when we talk about success and satisfaction, you're not going to feel successful in something if you haven't gone deep. And that doesn't always have to be in a relationship. That can be in doing a project and getting something done. But you need to be able to go deep. And you have to understand that just like with our Cancer energy, not everybody's comfortable in the depths. And so you have to be able to kind of hold their hand, get in them there, and give them a little bit of space and grace to get there with you, or be able to go there and show them through your own vulnerability, through your own rawness, what that looks like and that it's safe to do so, which can also be hard. It can be really hard to be the one who's vulnerable in those situations. All right, heading into the home stretch with these last 4. We've got our moon in Sagittarius, people. This is our 3rd fire sign, and this is the fire that gets passed from one torch to another. So we just saw the torches going through in the Olympic relays. That is the Sagittarius fire. Sagittarius loves to seek, loves to learn, loves to experience. They're big on life, but they want to share that with others. It is not a solo venture. So for you to feel really satisfied and successful, you're going to need those people and those spaces and those contexts where you can not only go in and like experience everything to its fullest, but then also share that with somebody else. And that can be really challenging for you because similar to our water energies, not everybody's as excited as you are, and not everybody has that same passion. And so for you, 1, your passion is probably super contagious, so don't dim it. But 2, also know that there may be times when you have to help other people get there. You got to kind of warm them up if they're not there yet. So for you, another thing is with self-care, pursue whatever those passions are. That might be travel, taking adventures, it might be books, for different people, it's different things, but let exploration be a theme for your self-care, because that's going to really help you identify what it is that you need. And then our, let's see, our moon in Capricorn, folks, that happens, to be me. Uh-oh, I went too far. Okay, our moon in Capricorn, folks. This is a cardinal sign. It is an earth sign. I like to think of Capricorn as like the peak of a mountain, where you're only going to get there if you're really intentional about it, and you got to be disciplined about it. This is, for me, it shows up as I love a good challenge. I am always looking for challenges. This is a cardinal sign. I like to start things, but I also want to feel that sense of success immediately. And a lot of times I don't, so that can be frustrating. But for you, if you also have your moon in Capricorn, think about what are you achieving? And then not just those huge mountain peaks, but think about all the achievements that you're making along the way. That can be really helpful to finding that satisfaction and success, because we don't always live on the mountain peak. We don't always get to go to the top, but there are plenty of things that we can celebrate along the way. We also need a lot of grounding. For some people, this shows up very literally. Like for me, if I can't see or feel or touch a mountain, I am really not happy. I lived in Louisville, Kentucky for almost 6 years, and there are no mountains in sight there. It is flat. And I always felt like everything was closing in around me because all I could see was trees. And I like trees, but they're not mountains. And people with their moon in Capricorn, like I said, this can show up very, very literally. Also, I love rocks. Mountains can be very rocky places. I have rocks all over my house, and not just crystals, but just like cool rocks that I've picked up along the way. So those are things that, as you think about your sign, think about things that are connected to that can help you touch base with that need that you have. Our Aquarius moon people, this is our last air sign. It's also a fixed sign, so it tends not to love to change too much. But the thing with Aquarius is that it is actually very future focused, and it is a lot of times looking at how we can change, but it's looking at how we can change so that we can make things better for the collective. The symbol for Aquarius is the water bearer. So she's bringing water to the collective, to those around her. She's bringing life to those around her. And so those with their moon in Aquarius, one, if you try to tell them, hey, we do this because this is tradition, they're going to be like, screw that. That's not the way that I want to live. Just because it's tradition doesn't make it good. And that is a very, very Aquarian thing to say. Aquarius can feel very alien, very weird. So a lot of times if you have your moon in Aquarius, you may feel like you just don't fit in this world. That's normal because you are that future oriented person. You need to be thinking about the future and you're thinking outside the box. And just like with our water signs, our world is not super comfortable with the emotions. It's also not super comfortable with people who break the status quo. And so it can be really uncomfortable to have a strong Aquarius placement. And this is actually my son's sign, so I can speak from experience on that. It can be really uncomfortable because you are meant to break the status quo. And if your moon is in Aquarius, you need to do that. And it could just be, hey, this thing doesn't work very well at work. We have this, system and it's not working great. Let's make it better. Let's find something new. Let's, make it work for everyone versus a select few. It can also be societal. People with their moon in Aquarius a lot of times are activists of some sort. So if you do have that one, know that your weirdness is a gift. It really and truly is. One of my favorite phrases is my people are mystics and misfits because I have that sun in Aquarius. And those of you with your moon in Aquarius are probably going to resonate with that really deeply, that you probably feel like a misfit. But that's also a gift because this world needs some big changes. And you are one who can help bring those about. And then finally, with our moon in Pisces people, this is a water sign and it's mutable. It's changing from one to another. So that Pisces water is like the Great Lakes. There's really, along the most of it, not a lot of boundary. There's a lot of flow. There's a lot of movement, but there's not a lot of constraints. And so for you with your moon in Pisces, you need that room to flow. You need that room to kind of take up space and figure out what you're going to do. And it tends to be very spiritual, very ethereal, very emotional, but emotional again on that mystical level. And so for you, self-care is going to be not only giving yourself permission to take up space, but also finding what those boundaries might be that are going to help you kind of keep your water where you want it so that it's not just going out and seeping into whatever it finds. You want your water to stay where you want it. So that's going to be an element of self-care. In terms of how you feel satisfied and successful, your emotions are going to be a huge key to this because you need to trust your emotion. You need to bring your emotion into the work that you're doing, into the relationships that you have. Because if you don't do that, then all of the other stuff that you're doing is going to feel pretty dry and stale. It's going to feel like there's something missing because there is, because you don't have that emotional piece to it. So, before I kind of move on from here, do y'all have questions about any of these signs, about the elements, about the modalities? This is a lot of information. You can unmute yourself. Go ahead, Anna.
My question is, I relate to some of these things that may not be my signs, but it's not like it related in my head. It's like when you said them, I went, oh, that feels so good to be seen. So can you explain how that works out?
Yeah, so there's a good chance that you either have your sun or rising in one of those signs, or you have like Venus is our planet of pleasure and passion and beauty. So Mars is all about how we take action on things. So you probably have another strong placement that's in those signs that you've felt that. So I would definitely, tap into that, look at your birth chart and go, okay, when you were talking about Aquarius, I really felt like that resonated. So what do I have in Aquarius? Yeah. Yeah, you're welcome. Carol, go ahead.
Yes, on my birth chart, the
Mhm.
moon looks like it's kind of on the cusp.
Mm.
Is that some
So
consideration?
it is and it's not. Really, what you will do is you'll go on your birth chart and scroll down to where you see these different lists of, where your sun and your moon are. And it
Right.
will show you this. So, like on this one, it shows moon in 11 degrees. And that's just showing where within the sign it is. All the signs have 30 degrees from 0 to 29. So, are you looking at your chart right now?
Yes.
Okay, what does it say?
Um, well, it doesn't, it's right close. I'm Sagittarius, but right close to the line before it starts Capricorn or um Scorpio.
So, does it
So
say what the degree
no,
is? Okay,
no.
that's okay. But it does say Sagittarius.
It if the line kind of between the two, the line, if I drew it, it would go a little bit in the center of the moon.
Okay. So, um, but is there anywhere that you can confirm, like where it actually says moon in Sagittarius?
I don't understand what you mean by that. I'm just looking at the symbol, right?
Okay, so let me see if I have an example on this chart. I don't. Okay, what that's essentially, and then we might want to just look at your chart together at some point, and I'm happy to do that. But usually what that means is your moon is either going to be at like the 28, 29 degree mark, or it's going to be right over that line at like 0 degrees or 1 degree. So it's not going to be in both. It's only going to be in one of them, even though the symbol itself is kind of overlapping the two.
Oh, okay. So the symbol itself is more in Sagittarius than it is in Scorpio.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep. Then it's probably is Sagittarius.
Okay. So there's no
But
consideration if our one symbol happens to be overlapping both of them. Like, are you
mm-mm.
saying no, that can't be possible?
No, because you really don't have our our signs really, or our signs, our placements. So like where the moon is really can't be in two places at once. It can only be in
Okay.
one or the other. So there
Yes.
are times where you have this small period like in between signs with the moon that's called void of course. And so without actually looking at your chart, I can't see if that's where it falls, but it still would be within one or the other of the two signs. It just isn't connecting with any of the other planets at that moment.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions? And you can put it in the chat too if you don't want to unmute yourself. Okay. I'll keep an eye out for more questions coming through, but I do want to go into what this looks like at work. And the reason for this is that most of us spend a huge chunk of our time working, whether we're working as an employee or working as a business owner, entrepreneur. And so, with this information, what it can do for you is one, it tells you what you need to feel satisfied and successful, but it's also going to give you a huge amount of understanding for other people. So I recently did a manager meeting where I walked through this with a group of managers, and one of them afterwards, she said, "This is why I could never figure out why my coworker and I were on the same page around our project management platform. We have different values and ways of integrating information, and so it makes total sense to her, but not to me." And when you think about the amount of conflict that comes up at work or in relationships because we integrate information differently, because our values are different, because what we need is different, when we understand I need to be achieving things because my moon is in Capricorn, my partner needs to fix things because his moon is in Virgo. Then when we're looking at a problem, it's no longer I'm right, you're wrong. It's okay, we're looking at this together. Let's figure out how we can meet your need of fixing this and my need of achieving a goal. And that one's a little more simple just because they're both earth signs. But when you go into, fire and water, for example, think about those two elements. If you put too much water on fire, you're going to douse it. But if you don't have enough water, that fire could be uncontrolled. And so when you think about these things within those different relationships that you have, it starts to help us understand people in a very grace-filled way. And that's, for me, that's the power of this. It's not just that I understand myself, it's now I'm starting to understand others in a way that just cuts out so much of the BS. It cuts out so much of the conflict because it's not conflict anymore. We're just different. And when I think about what I need to feel satisfied and successful, I've been in roles where there was nothing to achieve. I was doing the same thing day in and day out. I need to climb those mountains and I need that at work. I've been in roles where I worked with a wealth management company, and that is great for a few. It's not great for the whole. It's not great for the collective. My son is an Aquarius. I am not meant to work in a wealth management firm. So do you see how these things can help us really make sure that we're aligned with what we're doing, with like I said, whether that's in work or other things. Maggie says, my moon sign doesn't really resonate, but my sun and rising signs totally do. Do you recommend getting to know the moon sign better or something else? Maggie, your moon is in Leo, is that right? I think you said that earlier. And you're welcome to put it in the chat or unmute. Yes. Okay. It's interesting because I have come across this more with people who have their moon in Leo than not. And a lot of that is because I think that like I said, there's a stereotype of Leo as being self-centered. And so if you think about it as the bonfire of gathering others around your warmth, that might help you get like a different way of thinking about it, because that's what you do. Like when I see you in what you do at work, you are gathering people around and you're sharing the gifts that you have so that they can then go out and do better with what they're doing. And so I definitely would recommend getting to know it more and getting to know it in the context of how does this speak to my needs? And how does this speak to how I feel success and satisfaction? Because that's not something that I think, talk about enough. And I think that it might start to resonate more if you do that. Okay, you are welcome. I want to give you a few resources to go forward from here. So my goal in everything that I do is to help you uncover your hidden superpowers. Too many of us are living with the idea that there's something wrong with us, when in fact, those things are our superpowers. I am over it. I'm over it for myself. I'm over it for all of us. I want you to be able to take action on your biggest goals. To me, this is like one of the most exciting things is when we can go, oh, I can move forward in alignment with who I actually am versus trying to do this as somebody else. And when we do that, our goals become bigger because those limits of trying to do it like somebody else are gone. And I want you to be able to do it with purpose and clarity and confidence, because we all long for that sense of purpose. We all want clarity and confidence. And it's something that I think is sold to us quite often as being outside of ourselves, right? Have a certain body type, have a certain hair, have the right makeup, skincare, whatever, that's going to give you confidence. And it's BS. And while those things can be great, I love hair products. I love spending time on my hair. I love my makeup. That's not where my confidence comes from. It comes from being aligned with who I am. And the only way to do that is when you know who you are. And to me, that is everything behind most true you. And so if you haven't got it yet, a really easy place to start is with the Cosmic Confidence Guide. It's free. You can get it on my website, and that will go through how to get your birth chart, what your sun, moon, and rising sign what they are and what they mean. Jen says, such a great guide. Thank you. I loved putting it together. I spent like 6 months on this, you guys. It was so fun. And it literally started with this image of the butterfly that's on the front cover. That's why it's there. Is I saw that image and I knew that the guide had to be put together around that. So that's free. It's available to everybody. Some books that I love, if you are a reader, number one, You Were Born for This by Chani Nicholas. That is my number one favorite astrology book. She goes into the sun, moon, and rising sign. She goes a little bit deeper than that, but it's wonderful, wonderful resource for getting to know yourself through astrology. Star Child is a really good one. It's about parenting through astrology, but you can use it to reparent yourself. And for your moon sign, I find it especially helpful. And then the third one is A Map to Your Soul by Jennifer Freed. And that's another really good one that goes more into the elements and other aspects of your chart. So if you like to read, those are 3 great resources. And then the other options that you have are, one, I do chart-based coaching. So this is kind of a combination of a chart reading with coaching, because again, I want you to be able to take action. Whenever we talk with each other, whether it's through a video like this, through email, through coaching, I want it to be an opportunity for you to kind of pull back and go, is my aim where I want it to be? Am I in alignment with myself? And then go forward from there. One option for chart-based coaching is, if you just want more info on your moon sign, we can do that. I'll send you a video recording. We'll talk about your keys to success. We'll talk about how it applies to your career and business, your relationships, self-care. If there's something else you have a question on, you can always include that. And I'm going to give you guys links to both of these. So let me put that in the chat really quick. So this first link is for the moon-based coaching, and that's a video recording. And then the other option is for going through your big 3. And this is a 60-minute coaching session. I love these because they're live. We do it via Zoom. You get a recording. And with this one, if you book this today or tomorrow, I'm actually going to offer a 30-minute check-in session on this. So once you've had your coaching session, then, within the next month or two, let's book another 30-minute call where we follow up and you can ask questions. We can go deeper. Typically, when we do these, we start with your sun, moon, and rising sign, and then there's always a lot more that comes out of it, just kind of based on where we end up going with that conversation. So I will put that link in as well. And this is, actually I got an email today. This is a little bit of a brag, but it's also just so that you understand like how applicable this is. I got an email today from somebody who I talked with a few months ago, it was a few weeks ago. She had just been laid off. I offered her a chart reading. We did the reading and we talked about like what she needed to focus on for her strengths as she was going through interviews. And she was offered a job and accepted it yesterday. And so she wrote me an email and was like, everything that you shared in our conversation together helped me so much with the interviews because it showed me what to focus on. I was able to take these like really abstract ideas about myself and put them into something really practical that I could share with the companies that I was interviewing with. And so that's that's why I feel like this is so important, because it's so stinking applicable to our lives. Yeah, that's I was just really happy to see that email. So those are the different ways. I love this brag. Thank you, Maggie. That's, like I said, the tip of the iceberg with your moon sign. If you have questions after this, let me know. You all are way more than welcome to email me. I would love to hear what resonated, what didn't. And there's my email address. What resonates, what didn't, what questions do you have for application, for going deeper, any of that. This is not just, not just if you book a coaching session. You can still email me even without that. Thanks, Anna. Not a brag. Actually, name is something great. Any other questions before we head back out for the rest of our day? You all are amazing. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Mom. Glad you're here.
Looking forward to learning more.
Thanks. All right, everyone, I am going to end the call, but like I said, you can always email, and I gave you those links, and I will send you the recording.
Love it.
Bye.
Such a practical application of something that's been sort of woo-woo.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that so much. Thank you. Bye.